Hello everyone. Today we will be looking at Hikaru Nakamura's game against Boris Gelfand. Boris Gelfand was once ranked second in the world, so he played a world championship. So he is 2761 and Hikaru is 2708. This was played in Bursa and it was the round 5 of the World Team Championship in 2010. So let's get started. Now we have a d4, a queen's pawn opening. So we get knight f6, c4, and g6. This is a king's Indian with d6, and black is just holding back, and later he will play e5. So knight f3, castles, bishop e2. This has all been seen before, and e5. It seems like you lose a pawn in e5, but you don't, because when knight takes, and knight takes, and knight takes, and knight takes, this is just simply we simply have a knight. So actually, sorry. Yeah, you can trade the queens first and make the bishop inactive. So it's just a trade of pawns. So in the game he doesn't take, he plays castles instead, and knight to c6, d5, and knight to e7. So basically what black's plan is to attack on the king side. He wants to push all his pawns, and white will be attacking on the queen side. He'll also pawn storm. These are called pawn storms. What happens is that you push your pawns for a pawn storm, and then you put your pieces behind them to throw your pawns and open up lines for your rooks, queens, bishops, knights, and more. Now we'll be flipping to Hikaru's point of view. Knight to d2. Now he's going to reroute the knight to b3 or c4 if this pawn moves ever. Another move that is played usually is knight to e1, and you're rerouting to d3 to support the c5 push. But knight to d2 and knight to e8, supporting f5. And he's going to attack on the king side. So b4 and f5, they're making progress. c5 and knight f6, just putting more pressure on this pawn and activating this knight. f3, just stabilizing the pawn structure, and f4, closing down the center. If you are the attacking side, you will always want to shut down the center, so the defending side's pieces can't easily defend. Knight to c4. Now we see why he put the knight on d2, to go to c4 and put more pressure on this d6 pawn instead of e1, which would have just supported the c5 push, and then it would have no use, the knight. So g5, again, just pushing the pawns. They're going to roll. a4, again, preparing b5 and maybe even taking on d6 one day. Knight to g6. Now the queen is opening a bit, and in a lot of these positions, knight to h4 will occur, and you just see in the game what happens. Bishop to a3. This again is putting pressure on this d6 pawn. Once this pawn moves, then d6 will be will have too much pressure. Rook to f7. This is a common maneuver in these King's Indian games, and what this usually does is you play bishop f8, supporting this pawn on d6, and put your rook on g7 so when the file's open with g4 and takes, then you can check the king and start an attack. So, b5, and the pawn storm is rolling. Now, there was too much pressure on d6. He could have gone bishop to f8. Again, I'm just reiterating the idea of rook to g7. That could be possible, but I think Hikaru wanted to take instead and not put his bishop on a bad square. He'll put it later. So bishop to c5 and h5. Preparing g4, slowly but surely doing it. Actually, time is a very important factor in these different sides attacking positions. So a5, he keeps on trying to open his lines for his pieces. Whoever breaks through first wins the game. So g4, now we've gotten a break. So black is going to chip away at this pawn. And yeah. And if they take, well, then the h file becomes open, or you even have the choice of making the g file open. So he didn't take, and he played b6, trying to open up his own pieces. Now g3. Yeah. So g3 and king h1, just trying to move out of the way. Bishop f8. Now he's going to trade this bishop, this very annoying bishop. But d6 was played. He doesn't want to trade that very good bishop, that very active bishop. So he plays d6. Now, a takes b6. Hikaru is just challenging white to take him back. Because if he takes back, then rook takes a1, queen takes a1, and cd6. And you have to go bishop g1, and there's no attack for white. Now, white's attack has fizzled out. Black has all his pieces ready on the king side. All these pieces over here have just gone away from this side, and will find lots of difficulty coming back. So that's why he didn't take back, and instead he played bishop to g1, bringing a bishop back to defend. This is actually not, this has been seen before. So knight h4 and rook e1. Now, instead of rook e1, the computer suggests h takes g3, and after f takes g3, bishop e3, and after bishop to h3, you can't take because I'm just going to fork you. You slide your rook over to g1, defend the pawn, and say I have a better position. The computer shows that this is a +1 position. And if I were white, then yeah, I would not want to play this as white. And I'm pretty sure a lot of grandmasters would agree with me. Because just the attack is so scary. You're gonna sacrifice and go queen to c8 and sack on g2 and mate him. But it says bishop f1. Like, cocoon yourself. Just defend that g2 point and you're winning, apparently. So, well, I mean, Boris Gelfand is a human being, and he plays rook to e1. He's just trying to give his king a little bit of luft. Let's turn off this calculation. Now, the move that black played is knight takes g2. Knight takes g2. Now what this move says is if king here, then rook to g7. And if you try to play h3, then queen to d7. A silent killer. A silent killer. That wins the game because you can't defend h3. There's actually no way to defend h3. So, you can't play that. So, Boris played d takes c7. And it seems like he's breaking through. He's got a very strong pawn over here. But then Hikaru doesn't care about that pawn and takes the rook. He takes the rook. Now, this is a very amazing move and just it's beautiful. If you take the if you take the queen, then g2. d2 is mate. It's actually just mate because the knight is defending and your bishop and your h2 pawn are just blocking your king from going anywhere. So knight takes e1 and he plays queen takes e1 instead. So anyway, he plays g2. This draws the king out and you go rook to g7. King f1 is it's not possible because you have a windmill and that's me. So king h1 instead. And now this pawn is still attacking the queen. Don't forget that. Bishop h3. God, if you take the queen, then you go bishop to g2 again. You're cocooned. Your king is trapped by its own pieces. It's a smothered mate, except with a bishop instead of a knight. And okay, so that was not well. He didn't take. He played bishop f1. And now, queen to d3, not addressing this threat and making a threat on the queen itself. But you can't take because what was this bishop defending when it went back to f1? g2. Bishop g2 is mate again. So, till now, the queen has been sacked 1, 2, 3 times. And now 95. 95 is defending the f3 threat because he was attacking f3, but 95. So now he's defending f3. And then Nakamura, so it's the third time, right? Fourth time. Just bishop f1, you just take the bishop because you can't take. Because of bishop to g2, that bishop was defending. And again, and I don't have anything to say. So that was not played and queen to f1 was played. So it's been 4 times. Okay, wait, sorry, yeah. So it's been 6 times, including those checks. So, and then he takes and then he calmly takes the knight. And it's a fork of the rook and the knight, and you can't defend it with rook a5 or rook e1 because first of all this is blocking and second of all this is blocking. So beautiful stuff. Rook c1 and you take the knight. You can even queen, and I'm still just up a piece. And queen to e6. Poor his girlfriend resigned the game. So let's just count again how many times he sacked his queen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Just beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. This just shows how well Hikaru attacks, and he finds tactics in these attacks. So you always have to look out for these tactics. So a very beautiful game. Hit that like button if you like that game. I would if I were you. See you in the next video.